human rights activist Steve Letsike joins us now. Steve, there's still a long road to go in this journey for Caster Semenya, but I think this moment, of course, is significant because it does empower her to continue the fight legally.
Indeed, this is a very important moment for Caster, but it's not only just for Caster, it's a moment for sports entirely, internationally, nationally, regionally, in terms of how we need to reflect on policies that have actually been harmful to athletes, and diversity has never been embraced in a way that protects, the athletes and some of the aspects of their life to make them competitive in a fairer way, but also to make sure that they can participate equally, in a multidisciplinary sports facility. So we are excited to see this judgment outcome, but there's a much longer way around what needs to be done from athletic point of view.
I think what it also does, Steve, is that it gives us perspective into the difference in thinking in different parts of the world. This is a court essentially in France that has made this ruling. It now has to go back to the government in Sweden, and they then have to review a decision in that country, a court in that country, in terms of, allowing her to compete in sport. And it really shows the way in which not everyone in the world is on the same page around this conversation.
Absolutely. Indeed. You would understand that it's not just even only around, whether the federations internationally have applied the same rule. And it actually questions the aspect around equality in sport, equality around women's, emancipation and participation, and even many other issues. I mean, you would understand, just a few weeks ago, we were even talking about, Banyana and equality for that matter, whether they are paid equally. So for me, the fact that this is actually taking back to the federations to say, reflect on your policies. You have done an injustice because the fact that this matter has gone to that level, there was an appeal after appeal until now. Caster actually is avenged in this matter, and really we welcome this, but it's really big news for women in sports, and we mustn't take this lightly for that matter.
The Court of Arbitration for Sport, as you've mentioned, has, of course, twice turned down this appeal. Are you confident that they'll come to a different finding this time around?
Look, the reality of the matter is that we need to study, their own appeal very closely, because it's always about the code and the rules about competition of athletics for that matter. And if you're going to apply a human rights point of view or perspective, you're going to want to wedge, the understanding of whether we have limited women and men. And anyway, I think reality of the matter for this case, we have to be honest. It's often women who are subjected to these unjust system and policies and laws and rules that men don't necessarily have to be going around this. And here we are, Caster, who identifies as a woman, who's a woman for that matter, and has been subjected to, her own biological and her own privacy has been infringed so many levels, so many times, and even her bodily integrity has been really questioned for that matter. So we are here to really reflect on going back. The appeals team committee within the federation is able to really reflect on whether it has actually, it can actually even undermine the value of the judgment that says that Caster was discriminated for that matter.
So, Steve, part of the difficulty here is that World Athletics, even post this ruling, has issued a statement, and they effectively are saying that their rules remain in place, so they're not budging on this matter. In fact, they're also going to be encouraging the Switzerland government to appeal. this ruling that has been made in France?
Look, reality is that we often find ourselves as women having to fight for a better position and a better policy that speaks to the realities of women. Caster will not be the first one fighting these unlawful policies. And I think as much as they still speak to their own rules and their own policies in place, those policies need to be challenged, and they cannot continue to remain unchallenged and actually leaving out athletes who have potential to compete fairly. And it is what they say, but it does not stop the fight here. It is, of course, what Caster would decide in terms of her own, life. And I was speaking to the vice president of SASCOP for that matter. And she said Caster is in good spirit, and, we're reaching out to look into, her own well-being for that matter, that she still gets support from South Africa, she still gets support from everywhere else. And I think it's good to see this outcome as it is, but we must continue to fight these policies that discriminate.
Human rights activist Steve Letsike. We'll leave it there for tonight. Thanks for your time.